You have felt it, haven't you? That invisible pressure pressing against your days. That strange resistance showing up when you try to move forward. That silent opposition you cannot always explain, but can definitely feel. It is as if something has been studying your rhythm, watching your steps, measuring your growth, and searching for the exact moment to shake your confidence. There have been moments when the tension around your life made no sense, when doors became heavy, conversations felt loaded, and even ordinary days carried an unusual spiritual weight. But this message comes with urgency and with clarity. Do not panic. What was sent to intimidate you is actually revealing something the enemy never wanted you to know, and that is how valuable your calling truly is. Heaven does not tremble because your name appeared on somebody's list. God does not become nervous because hidden opposition has started moving in the dark. Before a whisper was spoken against you, before envy formed in someone's heart, before a scheme was crafted in secret, the Lord had already seen the beginning, the middle, and the end. That means you are not hearing this by accident. You are hearing this because your spirit needs confirmation that what has been happening around you is not random, and your soul needs the reminder that divine protection has not left your side. So settle in and listen closely, because this word is meant to strengthen your discernment, steady your mind, and remind you who is truly in control. And if this message finds you in the exact season you are living through right now, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment saying, "I will not panic, God goes before me." Because sometimes one bold declaration is enough to break the atmosphere of fear and remind your spirit that you are covered. What you must begin to understand now is that the attack itself is not evidence that you are weak, forgotten, or abandoned. In fact, the intensity of what has come against you is often the clearest proof that your life carries unusual significance. Ordinary lives do not provoke extraordinary resistance. Empty assignments do not attract this kind of attention. The enemy does not waste energy, time, or strategy on something that holds no threat to darkness. So when the pressure intensified, when betrayal came from directions you did not expect, when envy began to rise without cause, and when it felt like unseen eyes were monitoring your progress, it was not because you were losing your value. It was because your destiny had begun to reveal its weight. There is something in your future powerful enough to disturb what is comfortable, expose what is hidden, and break patterns that were supposed to continue unchallenged. That is why your life has felt like a battlefield at times, not because you were chosen for destruction, but because you were marked for impact. And once you understand that, you stop interpreting opposition as proof that you should retreat. You begin to see it as confirmation that what you carry matters. The pressure on your life has not been random friction. It has been reaction. It has been resistance to the oil on your life, the authority growing in your spirit, the clarity increasing in your discernment, and the quiet strength developing inside you. You have been under attack because you are moving towards something that cannot remain small. You have been opposed because what you are becoming threatens what has benefited from your confusion, your delay, and your self-doubt. The enemy prefers chosen ones to remain uncertain, emotionally drained, spiritually distracted, and constantly questioning themselves. But the moment you begin to grow in peace, in maturity, in obedience, and in clarity, the atmosphere around you changes, and that change often reveals just how much resistance your becoming has stirred up. This is why you cannot measure your life only by what feels smooth. Some of the greatest confirmations come wrapped in conflict. Some of the deepest proofs of calling come disguised as resistance. Some of the clearest signs that your life matters appear when the pressure around you becomes too specific to ignore. And from there, it starts to make sense why certain people suddenly changed around you. Because not every shift in human behavior is random, and not every cold response is just a mood. Some people became distant without explanation. Some grew jealous when you had done nothing to compete with them. Some became strangely irritated by your presence, your peace, or your progress, even when you were minding your own business. Others turned cold, evasive, guarded, or subtly hostile. And the confusing part was that you could feel the change before you could explain it. But what if their shift was not random at all? What if something in your spirit had begun exposing what was hidden in them? Your growth has a way of disturbing people who were comfortable with an earlier version of you. Your healing makes certain attachments uncomfortable. Your peace becomes offensive to those who depend on chaos to maintain control. Your obedience to God creates distance between you and people who only felt safe around you when you were unsure of yourself. Sometimes it is not that they suddenly changed into different people. Sometimes they simply stopped being able to hide what was already there once your discernment became stronger and your light became harder to ignore. There are people who liked you when you were weary, doubting, apologizing for your presence, and easy to influence. They felt no need to reveal themselves because your condition was convenient for their access. But once God began lifting you, healing you, strengthening you, and sharpening your vision, their comfort was interrupted. What had remained hidden started rising to the surface. Your spirit became a mirror they did not ask for. Your stability exposed their instability. Your sincerity exposed their performance. Your quiet confidence exposed their insecurity. And without saying a word, your very presence began disrupting agendas they had never confessed. This is why some reactions around you have seemed excessive compared to anything you actually did. You were not just interacting with personalities, you were touching hidden motives. You were disturbing carefully managed appearances. You were becoming too clear to manipulate, too peaceful to provoke easily, and too aligned to keep participating in relationships built on confusion. The chosen one often experiences this kind of relational shift because elevation changes compatibility. Not everyone can go where truth is required. Not everyone can stay where pretense is dying. Not everyone can celebrate your obedience when their comfort depended on your compromise. So when people suddenly changed, it was painful, yes, but it was also revealing. It showed you who could handle your growth and who only preferred your former weakness. It showed you who loved you with clean intentions and who had built secret expectations around your stagnation. It showed you that not every departure is a loss, and not every cold face is a mystery. Some people changed because your spirit began announcing a new season, and everything in them that was misaligned started reacting to it. And once you realize that, another truth becomes easier to understand. The target list was formed in secret, long before you saw the evidence in public. Opposition rarely begins in the open. Most of the time, it starts behind closed doors, in whispers, in private resentment, in hidden conversations, in quiet comparison, in subtle manipulation, in spiritual hostility, and in attempts to discredit your name before you even know there is something to defend. There may have been rooms you never entered where your name was spoken. There may have been people smiling in front of you while discussing you in private. There may have been energy directed toward you that was never announced aloud, because darkness prefers secrecy when it is building its case against a chosen one. The target list is not always literal, but it is real in the spiritual sense. It is formed whenever your name becomes a point of irritation for people who cannot explain why your life troubles them. It is formed whenever hidden resentment begins organizing itself into strategy. It is formed whenever gossip becomes coordinated, whenever suspicion is planted, whenever your character is quietly questioned, whenever your progress is monitored by people who do not celebrate it, and whenever someone decides that your peace, your favor, or your future makes them uncomfortable enough to respond in the dark. This is why some seasons feel heavy before any obvious event happens. Your spirit can often sense what your mind has not yet identified. You may have felt watched without proof, resisted without cause, or burdened without visible reason, because opposition had already begun moving in unseen ways. But here is the powerful part. Though your name may have been whispered in secret, heaven heard every syllable. God was present in every room where you were misunderstood, misrepresented, or quietly targeted. Every hidden intention was recorded. Every motive was seen. Every false smile, every strategic silence, every whispered accusation, every envious glance, every private plan to limit, shame, or confuse you was visible to the one who never loses sight of his own. That matters deeply because secrecy often makes the chosen one feel powerless. It creates the torment of sensing something without being able to prove it. It creates the frustration of knowing the atmosphere changed while lacking the evidence to explain why. But God does not require your awareness in order to begin His protection. He does not need your proof in order to establish His verdict. He does not wait until the trap becomes visible before deciding how to shield you. And that is exactly why the next part of this message must settle your heart. God says, do not panic, because He saw it first. He is not reacting late. He is not scrambling to catch up to events. He did not discover the ambush after it was formed, the betrayal after it surfaced, or the trap after it was set. What feels sudden to you was never sudden to heaven. God saw the conversation before it happened, the intention before it matured, the envy before it was spoken, and the scheme before it found language. There is a holy calm in that truth, because panic grows wherever people think they are facing something unseen and unsupported. But you are not unsupported. You are not uncovered. You are not moving through this season without divine awareness. The Lord saw the ambush before the enemy chose the location. He saw the betrayal before the betrayer justified it. He saw the trap before the first piece was laid. Which means your instruction now is not to react like someone abandoned in the dark. Your instruction is to remain calm, stay discerning, and refuse to let fear take the steering wheel. Fear always wants speed. It wants rushed decisions, emotional words, premature reactions, desperate explanations, and choices made from pain instead of wisdom. But when God tells you not to panic, He is not minimizing the reality of what you are facing. He is protecting your ability to move with clarity. Panic clouds discernment. Panic makes you misread people, mismanage timing, and abandon the peace that allows you to hear God clearly. That is why calm is not weakness in this season. Calm is warfare. Stillness is not passivity. It is trust under pressure. Discernment is not denial. It is spiritual intelligence refusing to be hijacked by fear. When God says, "Do not panic," He is reminding you that His sight reaches farther than your anxiety. He is telling you that nothing about this season has escaped His attention. Even the things that wounded you, confused you, or caught you off guard did not catch Him off guard. And because He saw it first, He also prepared before you arrived. Some things were blocked that you never knew were coming. Some doors were closed not to punish you, but to preserve you. Some delays that frustrated you were actually divine interruptions placed between you and a carefully hidden trap. Some separations that hurt you were heaven removing access from people who should not have been near your next season. God's awareness is not passive observation. It is active covering. It is strategic protection. It is mercy that often works invisibly until the day you look back and realize how much danger you never actually reached. So breathe again. Let your spirit settle again. Let your mind come out of survival mode. The fact that your name was targeted does not mean your life is out of control. It means your calling is visible enough to provoke resistance, but your God is sovereign enough to stay far ahead of it. And because He is ahead of it, you do not have to live in panic, suspicion, or emotional exhaustion. You can live in awareness without fear, in wisdom without paranoia, and in peace without denial. The enemy may have tried to place your name on a target list, but heaven placed your life in the hands of a God who never sleeps, never misses, and never loses what belongs to Him. And what becomes clear as this season deepens is that their real goal was never limited to your reputation, your opportunities, or even your relationships. Because the deepest target was always your mind, your peace, and your ability to remain spiritually steady while pressure rose around you. That is why some attacks felt strangely psychological. It was not always about visible loss. It was about invisible agitation. It was about making you second guess what God had already shown you, making you feel rushed when heaven was saying wait, making you feel abandoned when God was actually covering you, and making you interpret tension as defeat, when it was often just proof that resistance had intensified around something valuable. The enemy understands that a chosen one who stays calm is difficult to manipulate. A chosen one who keeps peace under pressure is hard to derail. A chosen one who does not panic cannot easily be baited into self-sabotage. So the strategy was to disturb your inner world until your outer life started unraveling on its own. That is why the pressure often came in ways designed to agitate rather than simply destroy. It came through confusion, mixed signals, sudden hostility, strange delays, emotional exhaustion, and moments that seemed crafted to make you react before you could discern. Panic has always been useful to darkness because panic clouds discernment. Fear shortens patience. Anxiety speeds up the mouth and weakens the spirit's ability to listen. A frightened person begins moving too quickly, speaking too much, explaining themselves to the wrong people, defending what God never told them to defend, and stepping out of divine timing just to regain a false sense of control. But divine timing does not bloom under panic. Wisdom does not grow in chaos. Clarity does not become louder when fear takes the wheel. This is why God has repeated the same instruction to your spirit over and over again. Do not panic. He is not merely telling you how to feel, he is telling you how to fight. Your calmness is not passive, it is a weapon. Your stability is not ordinary composure, it is spiritual warfare. Every time you refuse to rush, every time you decline to react impulsively, every time you choose prayer over panic, silence over self-betrayal, and discernment over emotional noise, you are breaking a strategy that was meant to weaken you from the inside out. There are battles where shouting is not strength. There are seasons where restraint carries more power than reaction. There are moments when the holiest thing you can do is remain unshaken, while everything around you is trying to provoke a collapse. That kind of peace unnerves the enemy, because it reveals that he has lost access to your center. He may still knock at the outer gates, but he cannot rule the atmosphere within you. And the more you understand that, the more you begin to notice that divine protection has been surrounding you this entire time, even in moments when you thought nothing was happening except frustration, delay, or disappointment. While a target may have been placed on your name, a shield was also placed on your life. While some were planning, watching, whispering, and quietly hoping for your fall, God was already moving in ways you could not track with your natural eyes. He was blocking conversations you never heard, breaking agreements you never knew existed, removing access from people who smiled in public and schemed in private, and interrupting timelines that would have led you directly into carefully hidden traps. Some of what felt like inconvenience was actually mercy with a disguise on. Some of what looked like rejection was rescue wearing rough clothing. Some of what looked like closed doors were really barricades of grace, standing between you and people, places, or opportunities that would have drained your oil and distorted your discernment. You thought something was being withheld, but heaven was filtering. You thought you were being delayed, but God was preserving your arrival. You thought someone walked away because you were not enough, but sometimes people are removed because they are not allowed to go where God is taking you. Protection does not always feel soft. Sometimes it feels like interruption. Sometimes it feels like loss before it reveals itself as salvation. Sometimes it feels like the ache of unanswered questions, because God would rather leave you confused for a season than exposed to something that could destroy your peace or corrupt your path. When you begin to look back, you will notice the fingerprints of protection everywhere. You will remember the event that got cancelled, the connection that suddenly cooled, the plan that mysteriously stalled, the invitation that fell through, the conversation that never happened, the person who lost interest, the opportunity that slipped away. And you will realize that not every disappointment was a wound. Some were shields. Some were invisible angels standing between you and harm. Some were divine refusals protecting the future version of you that the current version could not yet fully see. And this is why you must stop assuming that only what succeeds visibly is blessed. Sometimes what God blocks is just as sacred as what He allows. Sometimes His no carries more love than the yes you were begging for. Sometimes His delay is the holiest form of speed, because He knows what needs to be moved, uncovered, restrained, or exposed before your next step can unfold safely. Nothing about this protection is random. It is intelligent, strategic, and deeply personal. God knows the patterns of those watching you. He knows the motives behind flattering words. He knows the spirit behind the invitation, the hidden agenda behind the alliance, the poison beneath certain forms of praise, and the danger hidden inside what looked attractive from a distance. So when he blocks with knowledge. When he delays with purpose. When he separates with mercy. And eventually, that mercy begins to show its face more clearly, because exposure is coming to the hidden agenda, and God is not going to let darkness keep wearing a mask forever. There comes a point in the chosen one's journey when secrecy begins to fail. Motives that hid well in dim rooms start losing their camouflage in the presence of divine light. People who relied on confusion to protect their intentions begin to unravel under the weight of truth. The same ones who worked in secrecy, whispered in corners, manipulated perception, monitored your life without clean motives, or quietly positioned themselves against your peace, will not remain hidden forever. God is not committed to preserving masks. He is committed to revealing truth. And when that revealing begins, it does not always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it starts with small cracks. Inconsistencies become visible. Strange behavior becomes harder to excuse. Stories stop matching. Emotional performances begin to look less convincing. False alliances grow unstable. Those who were once united in secrecy start turning on one another, because darkness is never truly loyal. People can bond over resentment for a while, but hidden agendas are poor foundations for lasting unity. Eventually, what was built in dishonesty begins collapsing under its own weight. Masks slip, intentions surface, the atmosphere changes. The chosen one, who once felt unable to explain what was wrong, suddenly begins seeing with startling clarity. And when that clarity comes, it is not just for vindication, it is for separation. God is about to distinguish between those assigned to your destiny and those assigned to your distraction. That separation matters more than many people understand. Not everyone around you carries the same assignment. Some are sent to strengthen, some are allowed to reveal. Some are present to teach discernment by becoming the contrast that shows you what peace does not feel like. Some are there for a season and then must go. Some looked supportive but were only studying you. Some looked close but were feeding on access, not honouring purpose. Some clapped in public but resented in private. Some wanted proximity to your favour without honouring the God who placed it on your life. But when God begins exposing hidden agendas, He is not just clearing your name, He is clearing your path. He is pulling confusion out of your environment. He is reducing noise so you can hear Him more clearly. He is disassembling counterfeit support systems before they can sabotage the next season of your life. This exposure may feel uncomfortable at first, because truth often arrives with disruption. It can be painful to discover that someone was not who you hoped they were. It can be humbling to realize how long something false remained near you. It can sting to see that hidden agendas were active in places you called safe. But exposure is mercy. Exposure is rescue before greater damage is done. Exposure is heaven refusing to let you build your future on top of deception. So do not fear what comes to light. What is revealed cannot torment you in the same way once its disguise is gone. And as these masks fall and these motives surface, the chosen one must respond with a level of spiritual maturity that matches the seriousness of the moment. This is not the season to become loud, reckless, reactive, or obsessed with proving yourself right. This is the season to become even more prayerful, more disciplined, more observant, and more rooted in God than ever before. You must remain prayerful because prayer keeps your spirit aligned when emotions want to take over. It is in prayer that noise settles, fear loses its grip, and discernment sharpens. Prayer is where you trade reaction for revelation. It is where you stop borrowing your cues from the behavior of people and start receiving instruction from the Spirit of God. You must avoid emotional reactions because emotional reactions often create fresh damage in already sensitive seasons. The enemy would love to bait you into unnecessary words, public eruptions, frantic explanations, or impulsive decisions that stain your peace and distract you from the greater strategy of God. But restraint is part of your authority. Silence can be sacred. Not every accusation deserves an answer. Not every shift deserves confrontation. Not every rumour deserves your energy. Some things die faster when they are starved of your reaction. You must stop over-explaining yourself because over-explaining often reveals an inner fear that truth cannot stand on its own. When God is defending you, you do not need to perform a courtroom drama for every person who misunderstands you. Those committed to misunderstanding will twist your explanations anyway. Those who truly matter will discern the fruit. Let your life speak where your mouth is tempted to wrestle. Guard your words, because seasons of exposure are also seasons of testing. What you say in pain can echo longer than you intended. What you confess in fear can strengthen the very atmosphere you are trying to escape. So speak with intention. Speak what aligns with God's promise, not just what agrees with the pressure of the moment. And stay close to God in a way that goes beyond routine language. Stay close by consulting Him before you respond, by letting Scripture reframe your perspective, by asking for wisdom instead of revenge, by choosing obedience over impulse, and by remembering that proximity to God is the safest place for a chosen one in a season of hidden warfare. This is not the season to panic, chase people, or force clarity from those committed to confusion. It is not the season to beg for loyalty, argue for understanding, or exhaust yourself trying to extract honesty from people who have already chosen disguise. It is the season to stay spiritually sharp, emotionally disciplined, and deeply rooted in divine instruction. And when you respond that way, something remarkable begins to happen. What they meant for harm starts turning into promotion. This is one of the mysteries of God's justice. He does not merely block the attack, He bends it. He does not only expose the plot, He transforms its outcome. He causes the very thing designed to diminish you to become evidence of His hand on your life. The plot against you becomes part of the proof that God's favor cannot be quietly erased. What was meant to isolate you begins identifying you as someone set apart. What was meant to shame you begins elevating you, because the Lord often allows exposure to become the doorway to acceleration. When hidden agendas collapse, they do more than embarrass the ones who carried them. They create room, they clear pathways, they remove counterfeit voices from the atmosphere. They reveal where your true support is. They sharpen your discernment. They detach you from environments too small for your next season. In that sense, even the attack becomes useful, not because what happened was good, but because God is able to extract purpose from what was intended as poison. Think of how many chosen ones in every generation were misunderstood before they were recognized, resisted before they were elevated, and misrepresented before their calling became undeniable. The pattern is ancient. The enemy attacks what carries future weight, but God has a habit of using that attack as the dark velvet against which His faithfulness shines brighter. The target on your back becomes proof of the oil on your life. People begin realizing that ordinary sabotage should have buried you by now, and yet you are still standing. Ordinary pressure should have broken your mind, yet your spirit is clearer. Ordinary betrayal should have ruined your assignment, yet your purpose is growing stronger. That is what promotion looks like in the kingdom. It is not always a stage, a title, or public applause. Sometimes promotion is the increase of authority, the deepening of discernment, the expansion of peace, the visible favor that remains after a coordinated attempt to reduce you. Sometimes promotion looks like survival, with glory still on you. Sometimes it looks like doors opening after false alliances collapse. Sometimes it looks like people finally recognizing what heaven had been protecting in secret. What they meant for harm will not have the last word. Their plan will backfire, not because you are clever enough to outmaneuver every scheme, but because God is sovereign enough to rewrite outcomes. He knows how to turn a pit into a platform, rejection into redirection, betrayal into unveiling, and hidden warfare into public testimony. He knows how to take the very place where they expected you to disappear and make it the place where your authority becomes visible. So do not despise the season simply because it was painful. Some of the greatest promotions come wrapped in pressure first. Some of the clearest unveilings come after a season of being targeted. And as you stand in that understanding, the final truth begins rising in your spirit with undeniable force. This season will end with victory, not panic. You are not being hunted without help. You are not surrounded without protection. You are not being watched without heaven watching back. You are not attacked without purpose. Everything about this season is teaching you how to walk with spiritual authority instead of fear. It is teaching you how to keep peace under pressure, how to hear God above noise, how to stop idolizing human approval, how to discern the difference between delay and protection, and how to remain grounded when darkness wants your inner world to become unstable. This is not the story of your undoing. It is the training ground of your authority. Every time you stayed calm when panic knocked, your authority grew. Every time you held your tongue instead of reacting from pain, your authority grew. Every time you chose prayer over paranoia, your authority grew. Every time you let God close a door without forcing it open, your authority grew. And the more they watch, the more God will reveal His power through your survival, your peace, and your rise. That is the part many people did not expect. They expected pressure to scatter you. They expected secrecy to confuse you permanently. They expected betrayal to reduce you, delay to discourage you, and tension to make you misstep. But instead, the pressure forged something in you. The silence taught you something. The confusion drove you closer to God. The resistance clarified your assignment. The loss purified your circle. The hidden warfare sharpened your discernment. And now what emerges from this season is not a frightened version of you, but a steadier one, a wiser one, a more discerning one, a more anointed one. Victory does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives as an unshakable spirit, a purified environment, a restored sense of direction, and a deeper awareness that God has been carrying you the entire time. So let your heart settle on this. Their list is not greater than God's will. Their whispers are not stronger than His word. Their watching cannot override His covering. Their strategy cannot cancel your calling. Their secrecy cannot outlast His light. Their pressure cannot outgrow His peace. And their attack cannot stop what heaven has already decided to bring forth through your life. You are not at the mercy of hidden agendas. You are in the hands of a God who sees before events unfold, protects before danger arrives, exposes before deception hardens, and promotes in ways no sabotage can prevent. So walk forward now, not with naive denial, but with sanctified confidence. Walk knowing that what tried to disturb your mind has failed to own your spirit. Walk knowing that what felt like delay may have been protection. Walk knowing that exposure is not the end of the story, but the clearing of the stage. Walk knowing that your response matters, that your peace is precious, that your words carry weight, and that your obedience in this season is shaping the authority you will carry in the next one. And above all, walk knowing that this chapter does not end in panic. It ends in revelation, separation, vindication, strengthening, and victory. It ends with God proving that a chosen one may be targeted, but never abandoned, pressured, but never uncovered, opposed, but never outside divine sight. And when this season is finally viewed from the other side, you will understand that even here, even under strange resistance, even under silent opposition, even while your name was on someone's list, the hand of God was never trembling. It was guarding, guiding, filtering, exposing, and preparing you to rise with a peace this world cannot manufacture and a victory darkness cannot explain.